Welcome to the Heartification podcast, where I interview people on how art has affected their lives and what it means to them. Art has a very special place in my life. It not only makes me feel happy, but it allows me to make others feel special. This podcast is all about how art has made an impact on others' lives, for all ages, all backgrounds, and all walks of life. You can find more about this podcast guest in my show notes. Without further ado, let's welcome my next guest. She is the founder and CEO of SkillsCamp, award-winning digital marketer and businesswoman. Please welcome my next guest, Bailey Parnell.
Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for doing this. So the first question I always ask is, how do you define art?
That's a very deep first question, isn't it? But I think art is, some might say, the expression of the soul. And for me, it's very much been how I interpret the world. So through other people's art.
Yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned, expression of the soul, I totally agree with that. Like my definition is art is any form you're able to express yourself and let out your feelings. So totally agree with you on that. And what art forms are you exposed to?
I think, wow, it's infinite amount of art forms. I suppose if you define it the way that we've defined it, whether it's an expression of the soul or feelings, then really anything can become art if you look at it that way. So even looking out there at the buildings, at one point it was somebody's art because it was their expression of what needed to exist in the world and their interpretation of how it needed to happen. And again, in that way, I'm exposed to everything. Everything around me is a piece of art if you want to think about it. Even these products, I'm drinking from a water bottle. Somebody had to do some kind of product design for it. And computers, I'm looking at and then we think about the more traditional forms of art, like painting and dancing, performing arts. I'm also a big fan of speaking.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that goes right to my next question is, do you consider speaking to be an art and why?
Mm-hmm. I do consider speaking to be an art. I mean, like many art forms out there, I would think that it is both, some can be art and function, and that's a really cool crossover. For some, speaking, like public speaking, I'm assuming that you're talking about, is simply function. It's just, I'm the head of HR. I don't think about it. I don't really think too much about the message or how it needs to get across or what kind of performance I can put into it or how my slides are going to add to this expression of myself. And in that way, they'd probably think about it more so as just function. I need to talk to the room. Whereas myself and actually my fiance, and we're public speakers who think about the art form of speaking as well as the message. And so then in that way, we do think about all the things I just said. How can it all come together in a way that helps us express ourselves?
Yeah, that's awesome. And what effect does art and social media have on someone's mental health?
Well, so those are very different answers. The effect of art on someone's mental health and the effect of social media on someone's mental health are very different. If you're consuming art on social media, I would say that for the most part, it's been, for me, very net positive in terms of what the art I like to see. When I'm on social media, I'd say the art forms that I'm into most are things like obviously photography and videography and whatnot, but I like to follow artists who do DIY and all that sort of stuff, like recipes, cooking, home makeovers. Even they would in some ways be artists. So the effect of art on mental health is, there's a whole thing called art therapy. It's pretty good. Like if you know how to make and you know how to interpret and you can find art in places, you'll probably be a happier person. And then in terms of social media's impact on mental health, well, that's a very long story. It can be both very good and very bad, depending on who you are and how you feel about yourself at the time that you use.
Yeah, definitely. And how does art help in improving someone's social skills?
Well, I think it depends on the art. So I do think, like, as we've mentioned a couple times, that it's an expression of the self. And you would think that if someone is really practiced, whether it was making like little figurines or a video or something, that in that expression they would be able to find meaning in their life and then hopefully be able to kind of express that to others. Though I would say that that's not inherent. So just because someone is really good at making little figurines doesn't mean that they're going to get social skills from them. So I would say that one very much depends on the art form that they're choosing. If it is a social art form, like dancing, um, if you're doing it with others, I think it would be a really great way to bond. The thing is, if you're into anything too, that's where I love the good side of social media. I often spend a lot of my life talking about the downside of social media and its negative effects on mental health. But I love the fact that you can, with artists in particular, that you could really be into anything. You could be into, like paint pours, and you can find a community of people on social media that are just as into it as you are. And then maybe your social skills would thrive because you just haven't really met that many people with similar interests. If you're in a small town, everybody likes the same stuff and you don't like that stuff, maybe you just need to find the right people. And on social media, at least that's something that you can do that you weren't able to do before.
Yeah,
So
that's really cool.
I suppose it's like that.
Yeah, it's two different
question, but the kind of summary would be that it would depend on the art form in order to say if it could help your social skills or not.
Yeah, definitely like two different ways to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And art can be therapeutic and it can help people through difficult situations. Mm-hmm. So can you give an example of how art has helped you through a difficult situation?
Mm-hmm. I'd say at any given time, my favorite art form is probably TV and film. And like for me, that's that helps me through every situation because it's how I relax. And I mean, actually like not just TV on in the background, but like really paying attention to a good show. It makes me consumes all of my attention, which helps me kind of calm down. So for me, that's my favorite. And in that way, it helps you get through everything. But I also think that just in that art form too, it's kind of my way. It's like empathy on steroids. Like if you want to learn about anything, you can find this movie about it. Like if you want to learn about, or even me, like I've learned about various historical decades and insight into the human condition of people who are unlike me. And so in that way, that's helped me with my career. I really honestly think that my TV consumption has helped with my career and soft skills. I really think it has because it's just, you get to, experience all these different kinds of people, kinds of stories, kinds of emotions and factors that you would never have otherwise gotten to experience. And if it's just on in the background, it's not going to have the same impact on you. So I'd say that's the one that's affected me the most. And really, it's just helped me in life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And are you attracted to...
I used to actually work in TV too. So at one point it literally paid me.
Oh. Yeah. And are you attracted to any particular artist?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I honestly couldn't name you lists. Like I couldn't name you lists because in almost every genre there's fun artists, painters. There's recent ones on Instagram that I follow that I'm like waiting for prints to come out, and then directors, actors, that sort of thing. The ones we go to, I'd say like performing arts, but hard to name.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I have a favorite artist either. I just connect with so many different artists and like, different, like, as you said, different kind of like film, then like dancing, singing, painting. So I couldn't name one either. Same as you.
Yeah, it's like funny. Art is a funny thing because really I think that general public would automatically go to things like performing arts and sort of visual arts. Visual arts and performing arts are the ones that people think about most. But if you go to an arts program in in school, that's the exact opposite of visual and performing arts. It's actually quite deep into the liberal art thinking and again interpretations of the world. So in that way, even a marketer is an artist if you want to think about it that way, how they interpret the story.
Yeah, definitely. And are you attracted to any particular art form?
Well, as I mentioned, I am very attracted to television as an art form, and it's pretty cool one because it's, well, of course I think that, but it's changing right now, and it's been changing pretty rapidly, I'd say, since early 2000s, actually maybe even late 2000s. So since then, we're kind of in this second golden age of television, and in the form, it's interesting to witness a form change. So even with like, for example, television used to have to be pretty standard. Like it was either sort of 22-minute or 48-minute episode, and it was interspersed with commercials on a traditional network. And in that, there's only so much liberty to create through constraints. Constraints breed creativity, but if you can extend the restraints, then you get new forms of creativity. So now you're just seeing, straight up, I want to create a 4-episode series, which is pretty cool because it no longer has to be a 4-hour movie. It can be a story told in a very nuanced way across, with intended breaks where the end of the episode is. And in that way, it's probably closer to like a musical or a theater production where they know where the breaks are going to be and they design accordingly. So that's the one I'm most drawn to. I'm also very drawn to landscape painting. So I don't know what it is. I just like that it came from someone's brain and it makes me think that I'm somewhere else.
Yeah, that's awesome. And my heartification project is all about giving back to the community. So how do you give back to the community?
Well, I think, through time, money, and skill, I suppose. Like actually in all ways. So I'm part of a number of organizations because the things that I'm probably most passionate about are education and access to education, as well as women in business. So at this very moment, I'm part of like 4 or 5 organizations in varying capacities. One of them is SheEO, which is this organization that's about refinancing how, one, women's access to capital, and then also women-led businesses. So supporting them with, yes, funding, but also mentorship, a community, skills like networks, all that sort of jazz. So I both give financially as well as help them like facilitate workshops or whatnot. I'm also part of, I'm happy to talk about this because obviously I want these organizations to thrive. So I'm going to like name call them. Another one I'm part of is WXN, the Women's Executive Network, which is also just about that. Whereas SheEO, though, is more focused on generous women and women entrepreneurs, but WXN is professional women in general. And it is also, I will kind of speak, run workshops. I just did this morning for free and support others. I'm also a mentor as part of their mentorship program. I'm also part of the Founders Fund, which is another organization where I donate sort of time and workshops, like because my business is a soft skills training company. So that's what I mean when I donate workshops. It just means that we do the same work, but we don't charge for it. And then, the Founders Fund is also a little offshoot organization to Tease Tea, which is funding women-led businesses. And I'm a mentor and a facilitator there as well. And then most recently, the Muslim Awards of Excellence, they started a mentorship portion to what they offer as well. I'm not Muslim, but it's about lifting and uplifting Muslim youth. So happy to do that when it comes to professionalism. So yeah, we donate. My fiance and I, we're often donating whenever anyone's seeking, but I'd say like the ones that we're most passionate about are education, access to education, and women in business.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's really amazing that you're, involved in different organizations. And how would you like people to get in touch with you?
So I have I suppose it depends why, but if you want to work with SkillsCamp, which is a soft skills training company, we partner with a bunch of organizations. There you could reach out Bailey at skillscamp.co, or you can go to our website, skillscamp.co. The other half of my life and my research is about social media's impact on mental health. So if that's of interest, you can go to safesocialmedia.co, and that will have all of our information in there. And then I'm at Bailey Parnell on everything, which is hopefully the good side of social media. So that's where you can reach me.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Remember, if you want to find out more about this guest, please go to my show notes where I have all the links needed. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to my podcast series and help me by sharing it, leaving a rating, and a comment. I hope you join me on my next podcast. Bye for now.